Hi friends! So today we are going to be learning how to solve for an unknown side, and in this particular case we're going to learn how do we solve for c. So remember, the Pythagorean Theorem, that's what we've been dealing with. So the Pythagorean Theorem states that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? So it says that the leg squared plus another leg squared, which is b, equals c squared. And c is always the hypotenuse, right? So today we're going to learn how can we solve for, well, how long is the hypotenuse here? Remember, the hypotenuse is opposite the 90-degree angle. So here we have a right triangle, and I have some side lengths. So this side right here is 3 inches. This side here is 4 inches. So we want to know, well, how long is that side? When you're dealing with a right triangle, it could be for any length. I'm dealing with inches now, but maybe for the next one I'll do feet, just so you know that there's different forms of measurement. Well, let's get started. So first thing you have to do is you have to plug the numbers into the formula. So let's do A, B, C. I'm gonna go over here. We're gonna identify, well, what's A, what's B, and what's C. Okay, well, C is the easiest one to identify because C is opposite the 90-degree angle. So here's the 90-degree angle. So C clearly is just C because we don't know C. That is what we're specifically solving for today. And then the other two are A and B. It does not matter. A and B are just the legs. So the legs, they can alternate. So we'll make A will be 3, B will be 4. So now, once we have all of our numbers and letters, we're going to plug it into our equation. So it's A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So let's put A in, let's put B in, and then C. So A is 3. So this would be 3 squared plus, and then we have B. B is 4, so this would be 4 squared equals, and then C we don't know. C has to stay just C because that's what we're solving for. So now we need to solve for this equation. We need to solve for C, right? So I'm going to use a different color for solving. No, actually I'll stick with green. So you will need a calculator. Okay, now the first thing that we're going to do is you can add these, but first you need to figure out, well, what is 3 squared and what is 4 squared, right? So 3 squared, you could just plug that into your calculator. So you're gonna do 3 squared. I wonder if you can see that. You sort of can. 3 squared is 9, so this is gonna be 9 plus, now we're gonna do 4 squared. That's 16, so 9 plus 16 equals c squared, because we don't know what c squared is yet. Now, for this equation, we're going to combine our like terms. So right now we have a constant and a constant, so those are the terms you combine. So this will be 9 plus 16. So you're gonna do 9 plus 16, you're gonna get 25. 25 equals c squared. Now this is where some of you might get a little confused, but this is what we learned back at the end of April, I think. So right here, it says 25 equals c squared. Well, clearly c is not alone, right? This is c squared. This is not just c. We need to solve for c. We need c to be by itself. So right now, c squared, whenever you need to undo an operation in an equation, you do the opposite of what is being stated. So for example, let's say we had, hold on. Let's say we had 4 plus, we'll do c plus 5 equals 8, right? That's a little small. Make it bigger. C plus 5 equals 8. So now we need c to be by itself, correct? So right now we have c plus 5. In order to get rid of plus 5, you have to do the opposite. So we would subtract 5 on both sides. So C equals 8 minus 5, which is 3, right? So you have to do the opposite. So the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So we're going to square root on both sides. That's very important when it comes to solving equations. You have to square root on both sides. So if you take the square root of C squared, that is just C. Because we are undoing, so these pretty much get rid of each other, okay? When you square root a squared number, it gets rid of it. It undoes it. However, now we have to take the square root of 25. So here, square root of 25, you can use your calculator or you can use your Chromebook. You're just going to do square root of 25, 5. So C equals 5. So over here, I can put equals 5 inches. Alrighty? So that's how you solve for C. Don't worry, we're going to do more examples. But remember, basically, you're going to find A, B, C, plug them into your equation, and then we're going to solve for C. So let's do another one. So this one, we're all done. I'll use a different color. All right. For this problem, we are going to do, this will be 5 feet here. This will be 12 feet. And we need to find out, well, how many feet is C, right? So let's plug in A, B, C. So A we have to find, B we have to find, and C we have to find. All right, C, remember, is the easiest side to find, to identify because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. Here's a 90-degree angle. So C, no value yet. So C is just C. And then the two legs, are A and B. Remember, it doesn't matter, but I usually make this one A. So I'm gonna make A is 5 and B is going to be 12. Okay? Now we need to plug this into our formula. So remember, it's gonna be 5 squared, because A is 5. 5 squared plus, now B is 12. 12 squared equals, and then C is just C. That'll be C squared. Alrighty. Now we just need to first square these because we need to solve for C. All right, so let's see, what's 5 squared? 5 squared is 25, so this is 25 plus, we had to do 12 squared, so 12 squared is 144, plus 144 equals C squared, we don't know yet. So we leave C squared because you can't square C right now. All right. Now, remember we need C alone, but first we have to combine our like terms. So we're going to combine these two. So we're going to do 25 plus 144. You're going to get 169. 169 equals C squared. So now we're left with 169 equals C squared. We need C to be alone. So when you have a number squared, to get rid of the square, you have to undo it. To undo a squared, the opposite, right? You always do the opposite, or the inverse operation is to take the square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So remember, here, taking the square root of a squared number kind of gets rid of each other. So we're left with C equals, now we need the square root of 169. So that we use our calculator. Square root of 169. We end up with 13. So C is 13 feet. So we use the Pythagorean Theorem to help us find, well, how long must the hypotenuse be? Because they gave us A and B, so we were able to solve for C. We're going to do another example. We're actually going to do 2 more because I want you guys to become familiar. Alrighty. Let's erase this. Let's erase this. All right, we'll do another. We'll do centimeters. We'll do black. So we're gonna do 2 centimeters. We're gonna do 4 centimeters. So how long must C be? if we have a leg with 2 centimeters, another leg with 4 centimeters, how long must the hypotenuse be? So let's get started. We first have to identify A, B, and C. Remember, C is the easiest to identify because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. So here's the 90-degree angle, right? So opposite is C. C, there is no number yet. We have to solve for it. So C is just C. And then the other two are A, B, right? The 2 legs. It does not matter. So A is 2. B is 4. So we have A, 2 centimeters. We have B, 4 centimeters. C, we have to solve for. So let's plug this into my formula. So A is 2, so this would be 2 squared plus B's 4, so this would be 4 squared equals C squared. C is just C. That's what we're solving for. So we're left with 2 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared. So now we just need to solve our equation. So let's get rid of the squares right here because you can square numbers, and this will clean it up, make it nice and neat. So 2 squared is what? 2 squared is 4. 4 plus, now we're going to do 4 squared, 16, equals, we can't put C squared in our calculator because we don't know what C is, so you have to leave that blank. Alrighty, let's combine our like terms. We're going to combine our 2 constants. So this is 4 plus 16, so we're going to add that. 4 plus 16 gives me 20, so we're left with 20 equals C squared. Alrighty, so this is the part where some of you might still get a little confused, but all it does is take practice. So 20 equals C squared. So we need C alone. We're not solving for C squared, we're solving for C. So we need to get rid of this squared part of the number. So remember, you have to do the opposite or the inverse. So the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So we're going to square root both sides, and these kind of get rid of each other, it undoes each other. So we're just left with C equals, and now we have to do the square root of 20. So in your calculator, you're gonna do the square root of 20. Now you'll see we're left with this really long number. This is an irrational number where it doesn't repeat after the decimal and it goes on forever. So when you are rounding like this, I want you to round to the second place value after the decimal point. So this will be 4 point, and I want you to have 2 numbers after the decimal point. So this would be 47, 4.47. Okay, so C equals 4.47 centimeters. So here we have 2 centimeters, here we have 4 centimeters, and we just solved for C, which was 4.47 centimeters. And this makes sense because the hypotenuse C must be the longest side, so this is the longest. 4.47 is bigger than 4 and 2. All right, we have one more problem, and then you'll be done. How long is this video? 13 minutes? I'm sorry that it's super long, but it's very important that you learn how to solve using the Pythagorean Theorem. So we're gonna do one more, and I like the way the black looks, so we're just, we'll do blue, it's fine. Okay, so here we're gonna have 5, we'll do inches again. 5 inches, here we'll have 9 inches, and then here we have C. Alrighty. Hold on one moment while my dog is barking. Okay, let's first find A, B, and C. So A, B, and C. Alrighty, so first thing, like I always said, C is the easiest to identify. So here's the 90-degree angle. Opposite 90 is always C, so C is C. We don't know that quite yet. And then we're left with AB. The legs are AB, does not matter, so we'll say A is 5 and B is 9. Okay, let's plug these values into my Pythagorean theorem. So now we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to help us solve for C, because we don't know it yet, but this will help us solve, well, how long is C? Okay, let's plug this in. So A is 5, so this will be 5 squared plus B is 9, so this will be 9 squared equals C is just C, so we have to leave that because that's what we're solving for. So we have 5 squared plus 9 squared equals C squared. Let's solve for C. So first thing we're going to do is square our numbers, get rid of the exponents. So 5 squared is 25, so we have 25 plus, now we have 9 squared, which is 81, equals C squared. We cannot do, we don't know what C is yet, so we have to leave it, C squared. All right, combine our like terms, so we're going to combine our constants on this side of the equation. So we're going to do 25 plus 81. 25 plus 81 is 106, so 106 equals C squared. Now remember, we are solving for C, we are not solving for C squared. So we have to get rid of the squared part of the number. So to undo a squared, you always take the square root. So we are going to take the square root of both sides, and this kind of gets rid of each other. It's the opposite. So when you do the opposite of something, it takes it away. It kind of like negates it. So we are left with our C equals, now we have to take the square root of 106. So I'm just going to take the square root of 106. So we're left with this number here. Now remember, I said that you need 2 decimal places after, 2 places after the decimal point. So this would be 10 point. Now, this is a rule of rounding. So here we need to round. So we need 2 decimal points. So this is 0.29. Now, do you see how the number after the 9 is a 5, right? That 5 is going to bump that 9 to be greater, and that 9 can't get any higher, so that means we need to bump this 2 to a 3. So with the rules of rounding, this number is going to end up to be 10.30, and that is with the rules of rounding. You can always watch Khan Academy videos or any video on YouTube, yeah, the internet, just to help you with the rules of rounding. But there we found C. So, if you're really desperate and you are not quite sure how to do this, so let's take the square root of 106 again, because I don't want this to mess you up. You could just do 10.29 dot dot dot, so I know that, okay, you had difficulty with your rounding, okay, approximately, or you can just tell me the answer. Or you can just say that it's the square root of 106, whichever you prefer. This is the most precise way of writing the answer. You can round for me, or you can, if you don't know how to do the rounding when there's, like you have to keep changing the place values, you can just do dot dot dot. That's fine too. Just as long as I understand that you are getting the gist of how to solve the Pythagorean theorem. So you will be doing a Desmos activity. I will give you about maybe 5 problems where you have to solve for C. Oh, by the way, this here, it was 10.30, we're doing inches. So using the Pythagorean theorem, we found that if you have a side that's 5 inches and another side that's 9 inches, well then the third side, the hypotenuse, is 10.30 inches. All right? If you have any questions, let me know.